has suggestions for Richard? Okay, I'm going to start. There's no rule says I can't, right? I like the way you started out with the soda dispenser. It was a great visual, considering what the title of your speech was. Loved your message. Your voice inflections are right on the spot. You're very good at that. My biggest suggestion is you have a tendency to fidget a little bit. So what I would actually suggest you do is let your body follow your eye contact. If you want to look at Mara Lee and say something, step toward Mara Lee, and then perhaps step over to Trevor and say something to Trevor. That way you're concentrating on what your body's doing so it doesn't just kind of go off on your own. Mostly though, I like the way you make me think. That's all I have. Who else has something?
Once again, a lot of great information here. Richard, I have seen you speak several times, and every single time you bring some really, really good information to the table that whether or not we're seeking a career position currently, still it brings that moment just to kind of check in with yourself and make sure that we're doing the best that we can do. Maybe it's even in a relationship. A lot of this information could be easily plugged into a personal relationship, because let's think about it. It's pretty much the same as a job, isn't it? You can get fired from a relationship pretty quick if you're not indispensable. So making yourself indispensable. So I think that it's relevant, it's timely, it's really, really good stuff. I also like the Coke machine analogy also, except for one small point. I just kind of think, well, they're all indispensable. There's no they're all dispensable. There's no indispensable Coke machine, so or Coke that's inside the machine there. So I don't know if you could bring out some sort of a hero that could not be bought or something like that. That would be the nice tie into being indispensable. I like how you picked out Keith as an example. Also, I think that anytime it helps really make the connection with the audience very strong, and I like that. 7 points. You also point out and told us also, don't write these down, listen to me. He actually said the words, listen to me, and I will give you a handout a little bit later on, because I think that's, you can't come up with a more strong directive than that. And everyone was ready to write things down, and then we stopped and we listened to you throughout the entire. So that was a really good way of taking control of the situation. The only suggestions that I would think is you had the 7 points, and they were quoted by Seth. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, just blanked on his name, which is a great, credible source to quote. I would suggest you try to make 7 points of your own, because that would be your unique talent. You can say, these are my 7 talents that I'm going to recommend to you on your career search. Not saying steal Seth's, but maybe you might develop your own, and that way you really own all of the content of the speech and make it your own. Good job.
Say very quick, I think it's number one in it's rich content. It's rich, juicy, and just really, really useful information. It's very fresh. And I love the second thing is I love your organizations. You start with this a picture, everybody can see it, touch it. Then with all rich content, then the ending, I think it's very powerful. You use the story without have to feel like, using our story. It's just a seamless translation. It gets to the point. It's just very, very powerful. I can't even think about anything make that speech better. Really, it's just awesome. Thank you.
Keith?
Keith will give me 5 things. So
I'll get
better.
Go ahead. Listen to me now, like David mentioned. I really like that. It's as if you heard me say it to Shay and you made sure you did it, so you're paying attention. That's great. Listen to me now. And it was also good too because you said, listen to me now, I'll mention the 7, I've got them over here. And if someone really gets inspired by what you said, they'll write it down anyway, but we're not busy trying to write down all 7 just in case we miss it. So that was great. I like your podium position. Where you put the podium. It's at a spot where you can glance at the notes, but you're not too far back. So that is a really good spot for the podium if you're going to speak and look at notes once in a while. I felt like I was a little too far back on Shay's speech. I was trying to think of a solution. The solution was just a few inches forward, and that was a great solution. I like how you dressed your part today. I feel like you did a great job with your gestures and your movements. I still feel like there's that invisible barrier here that you don't cross too much. Like you'll talk and this hand will kind of like hang up here as if you were at a desk, like it won't go. But I like to see it kind of drop down a little bit so this hand gets a little bit more attention and bring them together when you need them, but then just let this one cross that invisible barrier that I tend to feel is there sometimes when I see
I got
this.
the invisible barrier people have told me before like this too, like I don't do any wide gestures.
That could be true, but the gestures I saw today, the only thing I saw was that just that bottom position there. And then I also liked how you mentioned the one example, your client who went to see the person at the medium company and then she called you and said, I felt like I knew. That was a great way to kind of bring it back and get us thinking a little bit about your services too. As Cindy mentioned, it was done very seamlessly.
Subliminals.
That's the word. It was seamless and subliminal, so I wasn't befuddled by it at all. I just kind of took it all in without thinking about it. It was great.
Thank you.
You made the timer how many?
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
3 seconds.
One of those long words had me befuddled.
I don't even remember what it is, but I
Thank you for your
remember.
brevity.
Oh, I know
Someone
it.
tell